What's not included in the assets test is your principal home and surrounding land on the same title. So if you've got two different titles, then only the one title can be excluded from the assets test. Known scenarios where there was a block owned at the back of a property and they've moved it to a single title and gone through the trouble of doing that. But you need to make sure that it's only up to 2 hectares under private land use test. If you've got more than 2 hectares for your property, then the amount beyond that is included in the assets test. Now there is a no limit under extended land use test, where if you've been farming a property for greater than 25 years, I believe it is, that the farm, and it's been used for farming purposes for that time, then for that 25 years, then there are exemptions as well that it can be excluded from the assets test. But if that's the scenario, then I would speak to Centrelink directly and just clarify whether your farm would be included in the assets test or exempt. But generally, for most people, the home is excluded from the assets test. Assets also excluded are accommodation bonds for aged care purposes, funeral bonds, prepaid funerals, special disability trusts. It's a bit over $575,000. I think that you can, if you've got a disabled child, for example, that you can put into a special disability trust to provide for their living expenses, and that's excluded from the assets test as well. Superannuation and rollover investments up to pension age are included. Until pension age are excluded. Now this is one of the strategies that we'll go through in a fair bit of detail in the next webinar, but the scenario that we're talking about here is that where there's a bit of age difference. So we've got Paul, who's 66 years of age, and Jill, who's 58 years of age. If Jill, for example, holds assets in her name in superannuation, they're not tested from Centrelink's perspective until Jill reaches her pension age. So, Paul's already eligible, for example, for the age pension. He might have been eligible at 65, and so Jill might only be eligible for the age pension when she's 67. So there's potentially 9 years that Paul could be eligible for the full age pension if they hold the majority of their assets in the accumulation phase of superannuation. So if that's the case, you've got a large age difference and one spouse is not of pension age, tune into the next webinar.